You see, people are waiting.
Hi guys,
Hello.
how's it going? We're doing a little impromptu live right now, and actually, I became bestie with Hannah.
We live next to each other.
Yeah, we're both in Florida, so I just came up to say hi.
Awesome. How do you see how this is going?
Okay, there
Oh,
we go.
oh, there's 11 people.
There's
Okay.
people. Okay, great. Welcome, guys. So good
Cool.
to see you.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my room.
Yeah, go back to your room because we got to present things to you. But yeah, I love the internet, right? It's a great place to make friends, and yeah, I love it. So hold on. I'm gonna add Anna to the stage. There you are.
Yes, we're basically together, but in two different rooms.
I know it's easier that way. So,
Cool.
welcome, guys. We wanted to do a quick demo to walk you through the potential of Etsy ad and kind of discuss the pros and cons of Etsy ads. And something that I want to caveat, well, I'll put your deck on the stage, is that what's very important to know is that when you start your journey, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are getting organic sales. If you're not getting organic sales, I don't recommend you start creating Etsy ads simply because you want to be in a place where you always are uploading what I like to call irresistible listings. And once you upload those irresistible listings, then you have data and that you actually are getting sales, then adding ads can really help you scale your Etsy store. And this is what Hannah's going to talk to us about today and figuring out how you can sort out your profits as well to make sure that whatever you're spending on ads, you're making money from it. So without further ado, Hannah, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, I feel like most people know you, but never know.
Awesome, cool. Yes, thank you. And if for anyone tuning in a little late, me and Luna are actually in the same house together right now. We're in South Florida together hanging out. So it's been really cool. So, yeah, today we're basically talking about how to make more profit with Etsy ads, right? Like if you're going to invest in ads for your business, if you're not actually making more profit, then they wouldn't matter, right? And so this whole lesson is about showing you how to prove to yourself that your ads can actually make you more profit, even if you sell low ticket digital downloads or in low margin spaces like print on demand. And so if you don't know me, my name's Hannah. I'm also an Etsy seller, an active seller currently, and I have a YouTube channel where I've kind of just been documenting my journey over the last 5 years. And that includes all of my wins and all of my losses, because in business, there's a lot of things that don't work out as well. And so,
Yes, that's true.
definitely just a
And
follow.
actually,
Go ahead.
I love that you bring this up because I feel a lot of people, like when they probably come to you as well, they just like feel frustrated because they haven't been able to crack it. And yesterday, actually, I was talking about this. Like, I've noticed people who gamify the process. So they take the process as a game, they actually end up like being successful because they're not so emotionally invested. And at the very beginning, even though we're all in it to obviously make money and a lot of you guys like want to make money full time on Etsy and finally like quit your job, it is all within reach. The thing
Yeah.
that I've noticed is that people who actually succeed are the ones who are methodical. They don't get so emotionally invested at the beginning. And when they are having setbacks or they have to upload a lot of listings, they just continue going. So I want you guys to remember that because I've noticed like the big difference between people who are successful and those who aren't. I know it sounds cheesy, but a lot of time it's mindset.
No, it's actually, yeah, always mindset. Even for me, like,
Yeah, it's mindset.
like,
Absolutely.
I mean, for all of us, like, no one's the exception to the rule, but this game is so much more mental than it is physical. Like I just can't even emphasize that enough. It is, I mean, in entrepreneur, we were talking about this a lot. Me and Luna today we're like, it's like this. It's like you're like one day you're like here, and then you go down, and then you go up. But like your overall trajectory of being an entrepreneur and where you're headed is up. It's just it's not always like this journey to the gods, rainbows and butterflies. It's definitely, a lot of learning lessons, even in my journey. Like I see all the mistakes that I've made, but that gives us that thick skin to just keep getting better and better every day. Just like you go in the gym, and it's just not going to happen overnight. For some people, it just depends on where you're at in your journey and your skill set. So it's all part of it, but it makes you very tenacious, and it makes you grow very thick skin as a business owner.
I mean, you know what I love to tell myself on those days where I'm like, because I mean, you're always going to have tough days. Like it's just
Yes.
like part of being human, right? And I just remind myself, I would rather do this than work for someone, because I just quickly remember my corporate days, and I mean, in some ways it's cushy because you don't have to like think as much. But for me, that was like, I felt like mentally drained because I just wasn't able to like come up with creative solutions or whatnot. So like, and also guys, like, don't compare yourself to other people, like that. Don't do a comparing game. That makes all the difference. Okay. So I see we have people from South Africa. And then where are you guys joining us from? I'd love to know while Hannah pulls up her deck.
Nice. I'm gonna comment. Hi.
South Africa. Hi. Yeah, that's you.
That's me. Okay, cool.
All right, let's get started.
All right, let's get into it. So, preference this with a couple of things, right? And pretty much all of your questions that you can probably think of will probably answer by the end of this. So you can always come back because I think this stays live on the channel. Ads. Who are ads for? My belief is that every seller that's trying to scale their business, I think ads are for everyone. However, if you are somebody that hasn't proven to make regular sales yet, ads are not going to be the solution to your traffic or your sales problem, right? And so for me personally, and we'll talk about my personal journey, I personally didn't turn ads on until I've had that energetic shift, or that shift that says, oh, I know how to make listings that sell, and these listings sell regularly. So if you've had that shift in your business where you're getting a sale a day, or getting multiple sales a day, or every other day, right? You probably haven't experienced that shift of, I get it. Okay, I know how to make listings that sell. I understand what I did here that's working, and I'm going to do more of that. Then ads are not going to be the solution to your sales or traffic problem. If you have launched your store and you have not been able to make consistent sales, or you haven't made your first sale yet, and it's been a couple of months, then it's most likely a value proposition and an actual product design or listing problem, right? And so we don't want you to just go out and spend money on ads and waste money. That's not what we're saying. We don't want people, we're not in the business of trying to waste your money. This is just definitely the goal on the highest level. If you're trying to scale your shop to the max potential, this is what kind of comes next. Like sophomore year, the second wave of business is like, okay, I know how to make listings that sell well organically. Now let's scale these listings to the max potential. And so that's kind of what I just want to preference with. And it's not like this all has to happen. You're not, and everyone's going to go into their account right now and put their budget to $1,000 a day. Like that's not the point of this training. It's just to show you what like the end goal is, should be. So this journey is going to be about what's the importance of ads. Why are they your truest, lowest hanging fruit to increasing your profit and your revenue after organic sales? Then we're going to go into understanding what the goal should be on the highest level for you and your shop. And then part 3 is we're going to actually go through a strategy of how to validate that you're running your ads properly, and the strategy that you're going to use to run your ads and scale them to the max. Again, Etsy ads should drive more profit, not just revenue. Otherwise, there would be no benefit of them if you're not actually increasing your bottom line. So why are Etsy ads your true lowest hanging fruit after organic sales? So Etsy is a third-party selling platform, and when people go to Etsy, they're going there already with the idea in mind that they're going to make a purchasing decision, right? They're going there with their wallet open, knowing that they want to buy something. This is not like Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat, where people are going to mindlessly scroll. And so what does that mean? Or what does that make the people going there? It makes them the hottest traffic on the internet. Right behind people, well, the hottest traffic you can ever get is somebody that's already spent money with you, like a repeat customer. The second hottest traffic is exactly that. Someone typing in the keywords for words that exist in your listings for what you have to sell, and they're going there with the intention of making a purchasing decision. And so that means then that after organic sales, your next best option to get more sales is by increasing the exposure of your listings that you have inside of your Etsy account. So one thing that I like to explain to people is that right now in your shop, you have something called a profit potential or revenue potential, right? With your existing data sample of listings that you have, based off the amount of traffic that's incoming to Etsy, there's a potential amount of money that can be the outcome of those listings. And the problem is that you can't even explore your profit potential or your shop's potential of what that number could be if you don't invest in ads. So if you're only relying on organic traffic, that's okay, but you just have to know that you're prematurely capping out your potential of the amount of money that you could make if you have never explored how your shop behaves with ads on. And so the way that I see it, or we'll come back here. The way that I look at Etsy is that, actually, we'll come back to that. So let's go to the next slide here. So yeah, basically without ads, a shop that has their Etsy ads maxed out and running profitably is just competing at a whole different level than a shop that's not exploring how their shop is going to perform in terms of that snowball effect that happens with ads and organically when you get more clicks and more add to carts and more purchases. So one thing that we wanted to validate for one of my own shops was, okay, how much profit would we have lost in 2023 if we did not run Etsy ads? So these screenshots that you're looking at are from my software called Profit Tree, which is the first and only automated real-time profit tracking solution for Etsy sellers. So if you sell with Printify or Printful, basically the first feature that we offer is a cost of goods sold management tool. So we associate every product cost to the sale at the time of when it happens so that we can give you back something called your operating profit or your profit. And so on our dashboard here, we're seeing screenshots of what our 2023 profit was after all product costs, selling fees, transaction fees, shipping costs, and ad costs. Now, when you first go to market for the first time in business, not just in Etsy, but in any business, there is a huge variable expense that you don't know until you just go to market. And that variable expense, meaning that it changes, can change month to month. It's not like a fixed cost, like your 6.5 transaction fee, right? Is your marketing cost or your ad cost. You don't know what this ad cost is going to be until you just start investing in marketing for the first time. And the idea is that you want to make this ad cost or this purple piece of the pie as small as possible while maxing out your budget to increase this green part of the pie, which is your profit. But first, what we wanted to do was validate that investing this 14% or this $43,000 in ads in 2023 actually made us more profit than we otherwise wouldn't have made. So when we run the numbers, you can see that we ran a 14% ad cost percentage, a 35% profit after all expenses, and our profit was about $107,000. So now we wanted to see, okay, if we did not invest this 40 and this about 41,000 and this $2,000 on ads, right? So we spent $40,000 on on-site Etsy ads. So this is the ads that are showing inside of your Etsy account, like at the top when you search something and you see this was an ad, right? We spent $40,000 sponsoring our listings for those positions. And we spent an additional $2,000 on offsite ads. So Google ads, wherever Etsy pushes our ad off of Etsy, right? And that amount of spend contributed to over $150,000 of revenue. So if we rerun our profit numbers without this additional like over $150,000, we wanted to see what our profit would have been. So remember, we did about 300,000 in 2023 as our top line. So if we come back here, right, 300,000 was our total sales, right? If we subtract out this 137 and this 18, so we come back here, right? So if we subtract the money that we made from the ads, our revenue would have dropped from 300,000 to $145,000. However, because that 14% ad cost would have never existed, our profit margins would have increased to 50%. So when you rerun our profit numbers, our profit would have dropped to only 72,000 versus the 107,000 that we actually made. So our minimum profit loss in 2023 would have been $34,000 of profit. So if we did not invest this $43,000 in our marketing, then our $107,000 profit would have dropped to $72,000 profit, and we would have missed out on $34,000 of profit and over $150,000 of revenue of people purchasing and add to carts and all of that momentum. So we have now proven that at a 14% ad cost percentage, we are making way more money than we otherwise wouldn't. Like you can see, our revenue more than doubled and our profit increased by almost $35,000. And remember that $34,000 or $35,000 that we would have lost was a minimum loss of profit because we were also running ads in 2022. So if we weren't running ads in 2022, we wouldn't have gotten the extra clicks, which led to extra purchases, which led to more 5-star reviews. And now the organic traffic is reading those reviews and converting as well. So you can just see the snowball effect of how ads are contributing to the holistic growth of your shop and the organic growth as well. And that's why it's kind of this like snowball effect, right? People can add to cart today. They can click on your ad, add to cart today, but not purchase, 5 months from now when Christmas comes around. And then that revenue is not attributed. So there's a not so indirect contribution to your organic growth of your shop as well when you run ads. More like if you got a purchase from an ad and then you get a repeat buyer from that same person, right? That it didn't cost you money in ads the second time from them coming back, right? There's just a whole plethora of benefits when you invest in marketing, and that snowball effect just of scaling just happens so much faster because you're getting your product in the hands of more people, or all the things. I'm just repeating myself this way. Anyway, okay.
No, you're good. Another thing I want to mention, because so a lot of people shy away from ads. And again, like we were saying, like if you're just starting out, like make sure you have organic sales first, and she's going to cover that. But the other thing worth mentioning is like Etsy ads are actually extremely cheap. If you compare them to like Facebook ads, YouTube ads and whatnot, like your cost per acquisition is much cheaper. So essentially like it doesn't cost you anything to turn those on. And a lot of people get very nervous when they're like seeing, oh my God, like it's spending all this money, but you're making the money back, right? Like that's what you have to understand.
Yes.
Like you shared, right? Like you made an extra 34K because you had the ads turned on.
Exactly. And I think the scary part for people is that they because Etsy, which we're going to show later in the strategy part, is like exactly what you're talking about. It's like it's hard to see it because the data they're giving you isn't really painting that picture. Like, am I actually making more money? So hopefully by the end of this, it's like we give you the confidence that, or the visual that you need to see. That's like, okay, I'm still hitting my target profit with my ads on, which at the very worst that we've seen in all the different ads accounts I've seen, it's at minimum going to double, or in my case, you saw it more than doubled my revenue, and it's going to increase your profit by like 20% at least. So if it's done right, but again, you can also lose money. So it's important that, you're taking those preliminary steps first of making sure that you know how to make listings that sell. So going back to what Luna said in the beginning of like people that think of this as like a gamified version. I love that she said that because it's very true. I also look at like selling third party kind of as a game. And so when you're playing a game, whether it's Monopoly or chess, whatever game you're playing, there's a set of rules. And so just like Etsy, there's a set of rules that you have to follow to legally be allowed to sell on the platform, right? There's rules. And then there's also rules of how you win that game in terms of how do you beat your competition to make more sales, right? So that comes down to building really strong value propositions, making beautiful images, doing keywords, all that stuff. But in terms of the bulk of your traffic to play that game, your traffic is going to come from two main places. It's either going to come from organic, or there's only two main ways to get the bulk of your traffic. Like, so if you want more money on Etsy, how do you get more sales, or how do you make more money? And there's two ways to play that game that I personally think that you play it to the max, to play that game to the max to make more money, right? Sorry, I just tripped over my words like 4 times. Okay, so two ways to do that. One, launch more things to sell, right? If you want more money, launch more products, right? If you cap out in one category, like if you're selling expensive pillow covers, right, and launching the same expensive pillow covers isn't increasing your top line or increasing your revenue, then sell wall art or table mats, or and go into a different category to attract new buyers, new customer avatars, and use keywords to get different clicks from different buyers, right? The second way is get your Etsy ad budget to the max. Once your Etsy ad budget is maxed out, there's no way to grow more or scale more other than launching more things to sell. And now, obviously, there's social media. You can connect your Pinterest account. There's other things that might contribute to some traffic, but 90% that I've seen, I've never seen Pinterest traffic bring someone more than 8% in my personal day. Maybe there's some people out there that have anomaly accounts that get more traffic than 10% from Pinterest, but the bulk of your traffic is going to be coming from these two engines: getting your budget to the max profitably and launching more things to sell. And so when you do that, and that becomes your process of your engine of how to play the game of Etsy, and you keep a blind eye to anything else, that's how you really scale your shop to the max. If you want to win at the game of Etsy. This is not true for Shopify. It's not true for Amazon. This is as if you're trying to focus on Etsy and grow Etsy as a main sales channel. This is kind of just talking about, we don't have to go through all this because we can spend a lot of time here just talking about that game of ads, what it does to your shop, how does it help you beat your competition, all of that stuff. And basically the moral of the story with those slides is basically saying, we obviously want to do what we want to do as sellers, but we have to think beyond us as the seller, and we have to think of what does Etsy want. And Etsy not only wants you to have really great images and really good CTR and high average order values and good value propositions, but on some level, you also have to ask yourself, what other things does Etsy want? And who is Etsy going to favor long term? And if they're in the business of making money, on some level, you have to imagine that they're probably also judging you on who's putting their hand up saying, I'm willing to invest in the platform in a space where others aren't. And that is also why your bid amount or your budget, when you set your ad budget, is so important. And we're obviously going to talk about that later. We have a bunch of things about budget and how to set your budget safely coming up.
And something I just want to mention as well, because somebody is like putting, she actually had in the comment, like, a lot of people pushing Pinterest, right? And Pinterest doesn't necessarily mean that your product is going to go viral. And that's actually something that I tell folks all the time. Like, social media is a beast of its own, and it's skill set that you have to learn. And so what happens is that you kind of have to pick your battles, right? And so a lot of time people want to go the all free route, which, hey, it's great. But what you are also have to remember is that you're losing momentum when you go the all free route, because realistically, it could take you 3 to 6 months to even a year to start getting traction. And again, this is taking into consideration that you already have good listings and irresistible listings. And what tends to happen is most folks who go the Pinterest route or social media route, their listings are not there yet. You don't have enough data from Etsy as to whether or not like your listings have potential. So you're putting a lot of time and energy in these other social media platforms. And then it's kind of like this like vicious circle where you feel overwhelmed because you're trying to do so many things and juggle so many things. And unfortunately, it's actually not helping you move the needle. So while Etsy ads, yes, you're spending money, and obviously you have to know how to be profitable. And Anna's going to show us that, like, you are focusing, you're like staying focused on the Etsy platform, and that's actually a way to scale. And then once you have that scaled, you can add all these other elements, and focus your time somewhere else.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the comment was, but like, for instance, like Pinterest, I think there's like an option for you to like connect your Pinterest account where it like pushes everything to Pinterest, which is great because that's like super low effort. You can connect everything at one time. But what she's saying, or like the idea that like to actually make regular sales from another platform to drive it to Etsy, like on Pinterest or social media, like if you're that good at social media where you actually know how to run a social media engine, whether it's on Pinterest or not, to the point where it actually makes you regular sales, I would not drive that traffic to my Etsy shop to then pay a 6.5% selling fee, right? I would play the game in the way that Etsy wants, which is invest in the platform because it's going to serve you and bring you way more traffic, and launch more things to sell. Because I kind of look at like if you're if I go back to that Pinterest thing, like there's a low hanging fruit of like you can just connect your shop and all your listings where it gets pushed to Pinterest. But that's really the only thing I would do. Other than that, I would invest in the platform that's serving you the traffic. And so one thing to keep in mind, it's like, okay, so if you have two people here and you're the person here that's just relying on organic traffic, you actually might be making sales that you're happy with. So you don't even feel this other guy that's like competing against you, but he's also investing in ads. So this guy's winning in the race. But the thing is, or the thing that's trippy sometimes with people with organic is that they're like, well, I don't even feel the wrath of this guy because I like the sales that I'm making. And that's cool for a time. But as platforms get more competitive, right, there is a day when that bites people in the butt and like they go the all organic route. They don't even know that this guy exists, and they have no idea that how much he's beating me because I'm actually kind of happy with my sales that I'm making, but you never even experienced the potential of this. And so once competition arises and the day comes that you actually do feel like, oh, wow, my sales are slowing down or it's getting very competitive, it gets hard because in business, everyone hits a wall at some point where it's not as easy as it used to be, but that's just the nature of e-commerce in general, right? And you wake up one day and you're like, wait a second, what do I need to do? My sales are slowing down. And now you're realizing that like you had all these people that actually are investing in ads in a space where you're not. Then it's like now you're playing catch up because it's kind of like, if you, you built a car and you're like, oh, I don't need windows for my car. That's really expensive because the sun is shining. And then 2 years later, it's like, oh, wait, it's starting to rain, but it's not that easy to go backtrack and then like try to put windows on your car because you didn't even know it had to because you didn't know you had to because you didn't know that it was ever going to rain. And so when you invest in ads and learn how to build an Etsy engine with marketing in mind, you're setting yourself up for the max potential best case scenario for any future competition. Like you're at that point, you're doing everything in your power to know that you're playing the game of Etsy in the way that Etsy wants you to play it.
And that happens a lot with POD, unfortunately, right? Like I've seen it happen over and over again, where people are able to scale to 6 figures, and then the next year is like, why are things so slow? Well, I mean, there's a couple of things too. Like so this is kind of like the negative about POD, right? Like you always have to be uploading listings, even if it's your winning listings. Like you always have to like kind of make sure that you are above the competition. So like whatever your winning listing is, people are going to start copying you, right? Like that's the negative of POD. That's why most successful POD print on demand sellers like don't share their store, right? Yeah. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is like, you're going to have to start cannibalizing within your own listings where you like, whatever is like a bestseller, you're going to have to like create multiple variations. But then if you add ads on top of that, then you're always making sure that whatever the competition is doing, they're not going to have leeway on you because you're actually spending money on ads. So your items are always going to be top of the feed versus what happens, because the way Etsy works is that it always likes newer listings, right? And while if somebody copies you, I've noticed that if somebody copies you exactly the same way, usually that doesn't work. But if they make even like a small improvement, that can easily de-rank your listing. So that's something you have to really be aware of, that like that's the negative. And as a result, like you have to make sure you're always kind of like on top of the game.
Yes, exactly. And with marketing, I mean, again, it doesn't mean that all your listings are going to make sense with ads. We're going to talk about all that and everything, but perfectly said, it's making sure that when you publish that listing, you have a potential of an outcome in the field of opportunity, right? But when you are investing in ads and then the ads are actually profitable, you have the confidence to say, I set this up for the max potential of what that outcome could be. Right. Without that, you're just like, we go back to that, you're prematurely capping of what the potential could be for that listing. And then you compound that with competition, right? That even could cap it even more when, if it is something that takes off really well. And then all of a sudden you have Joe Schmo down the street that's doing it maybe a little even better. And he's using ads, so it's just ensuring that you're setting up for the max potential. So now let's talk about what the high level goal is, right? And this is really important because this is hopefully going to paint a picture and expectation of what the goal is for your ads. I think of your listings as a filtration system. So just like for me, right? There's an algorithm, organic algorithm, right? And you're going to feed things. You're going to have your consistent Etsy listing launch process of testing new listings, all that stuff, right? And you're going to be feeding things here at the top of the algorithm, right? And out of every 100 listings that you post, there's going to be a percentage that the algorithm likes that decides to give it traffic and sales. Now, this is the same thing that happens with your ads, right? And the idea is that as you launch things, you're trying to get things not just into this pool, but then this second pool here that says, wow, okay, not only do these sell well organically, but they also make sense financially with my ads on, meaning I'm making more money with these listings with my ads on. Now, the tricky part is, or not the tricky part, but just the catch is just because something sells well organically does not mean that it's going to make sense financially with ads. AKA, this is not set and forget. It's not micromanage and look at it every hour, but we need to turn off the listings that aren't profitable with ads. So like an example for my own store is we sell expensive pillow covers, okay? And so we have all this extra fabric. And so we're like, okay, let's not waste all this fabric. Let's turn it into circle wall art. Okay, cool. We made this circle wall art. We did a photo shoot and it sells well organically. We put ads behind it and it's not profitable with ads on. Everyone hates the circle wall art. Well, they like it organically, but it's not profitable with ads on. So financially, the margins of that product does not make sense after you factor in the ad costs. And so that's okay. We turn off that listing with ads. We let it make full margin and organic sales. And then we focus on new product opportunities that do financially make sense with ads. So like for people selling low ticket digital downloads, or a lot of times even in print on demand, people are like, oh, the margins are so slim, I can't run ads. Well, maybe your existing listings don't make sense with ads, but it's our goal because remember, if we're trying to compete on the highest level, we want that Etsy ads budget maxed out profitably. So we want to focus on product opportunities that do make sense financially with ads. So if you're selling low ticket digital downloads, how can we bundle those digital downloads? So instead of a $3 sale price, we turn it into a $30 sale price. If you're selling baby onesies, can we sell twin baby onesies? And it doesn't mean that every listing has to be a bundled or group listings for print on demand. It just means that out of all the data sample of products that we have, we want to sprinkle some in that do financially make sense with ads on so that we can build that moat and we can reap that benefit of making sure that our shop is set up for the best case scenario in terms of the amount of traffic that we can get. So like an example for print on demand is, make twin baby onesies, boy, girl baby onesies. And the main image is showing two products instead of one. So then when they click on it, they have an intention in their mind if they're already going to purchase more than one thing, which increases your average order value, which gives you more margin and more money to play with when it comes to investing in your ads, or team shirts or birthday group shirts where they're going to buy 5 or 6 shirts at the same time. But I will say, even with people selling low ticket digital downloads, or those one-off shirts or whatever, or low margin spaces, a lot of times those listings are even still profitable with ads. People just don't know it because they're not analyzing their ads properly, which will explain what that means in a second. So here we're going to get into how Etsy bills you. So Etsy bills you in something called pay per click, which is PPC. So you don't actually pay for the ad until someone clicks on it, and you had to earn that click in comparison to your competition. And someone also had to search in a keyword for your ad to show up in the first place. So that makes it very hot traffic. The second way is offsite ads. You're paying either 12 or 15%. 15% if you've done less than 10,000 a year, and 12% if you've done under 10,000 in a year, it's 15%. If you've done over 10,000, it's 12%. Now, this is the most fair game out there because, again, if you try to run ads on Meta or Google or TikTok by yourself, right, and you set your budget to $1,000 that day, it's going to spend $1,000 whether it's giving you quality clicks or not, right? And this is why on Etsy, when you set your budget to $1,000, like yesterday, ours is set to 1,000. I think it maybe spent $120 or something, right? Because you're not actually paying unless someone clicks, or on offsite ads if someone purchases. And so that's a very fair game in comparison to any other platform. But there's a green light that kind of goes off here sometimes for some people. And what that is if we come into a screenshot here, is sometimes people are sitting on like gold mines and they don't even realize it because they've been spending, even at a low budget, say $5 to $10 a day for the last 2 months, right? They haven't even looked at it. They just have some budget there. They don't really know what's going on. But the thing is that when they look at their ad cost percentage, so for print on demand, historically, you would want to keep your ad costs around 10 to maybe upward of 15% if you're really new, but you want this obviously as low as possible so that this green piece of the pie is as big as possible. And so a lot of times people that don't even know what they're doing with their ads, they just have a small budget of say $5, $10 a day, and they've at least ran those ads for 30 days. 30 days is enough data to say, oh, this is your ad cost, right? And when you calculate that, and you can do this without Profitry, you can calculate it yourself. You can go into your Etsy account and look at what you spent versus what you made for the same 30-day or 60-day time period. And you can say my ad cost percentage was blank. Now, if you're in print on demand and you're already as is without touching anything, you're clearing a healthy ad cost percentage of say 12%. If tomorrow you turn up that budget from $10 to $100 a day, that doesn't mean that this ad cost is all of a sudden going to shoot to 30% just because you increase your budget. Because remember, the way that Etsy bills you is called pay per click, which means your ad is being shown to the same quality people at $10 a day versus $20 a day versus $30 a day. So you just increasing your budget at an already healthy ad cost percentage is just going to proportionally increase your top line and your profit, because you're just going to get more exposure, and you're going to get more clicks proportional to the increase in budget, and you're going to make more revenue and more profit. So a lot of times people don't even realize it, and they have a 9% ad cost percentage, and they've been spending $10 a day for the last 3 months, and they don't realize that, wow, if I don't change anything else, like I don't launch a bunch of new listings with ads on, there's no variable changes, I just increase my budget on my existing active ads, all it's going to do is just proportionally scale my shop up, right? And that's really like the lowest hanging fruit that you can possibly take with your shop if you're already clearing a healthy ad cost percentage. Now, the question is how do I maintain a healthy ad cost percentage, right? So last year, if it was at 14%, how do I get it to 11% next year? So how do I get this number to go lower and lower? So I know that every dollar going in is going to only the listings that are giving me the best return. And the way we're going to do that is by looking at something in Profitry called tacos, aka our ad cost percentage. So tacos is your total advertising cost of sale, and all this represents this column here, these percentages, is the same thing that we're seeing on our Profitry dashboard, right? So this ad cost percentage here, right? So 13% of our total net sales went to our marketing, right? That tacos represents the same thing. It's the same thing, but on the listing level. It's your ad cost percentage. So it's what you spent against all of the money that came out of the click of that listing. And so this is a little bit different than what you see inside of your Etsy account. So when you go to an Etsy marketing tab, right, you have all these metrics. You have views, clicks, click rate, revenue, spend, ROAS, right? Now, what is the difference here? The difference here is that ROAS and revenue, this is only accounting for money that actually came out of a click from the ad. So this revenue column here is only resembles the money that came out of the ad, where what Profitry is showing you is your total sales. So this is all money that came from the ads plus your organic revenue. So you can see that green, that pink, and that purple, right? And so what we have to understand is that this total revenue represents all of the money that came out of the clicks from this listing. And so this revenue would not have been made if they didn't click on this listing, whether it was paid or organic. And so what we want to analyze is the ad cost percentage in this way, because this gives us a holistic picture of of the quality of the clicks that this listing is making us, or the money that the quality of the clicks that this listing gets us, and all of the revenue that we wouldn't otherwise have made if they did not first click on this listing. So if I'm not losing you, basically what we're trying to do is make it as black and white, as easy as possible, that if we know that we are making more money at a 14% ad cost percentage, then essentially we just turn off any listings that aren't either one, hitting our target tacos or our target ad cost, or two, is not hitting our target profit for a good enough time period. So I like to look at things in like a 2-month window. For you guys doing print on demand, you probably want to look at things in a, it's going to spend a lot faster. So maybe a month window. And so basically we want to see, okay, this has been spending for a month and a half, a month and change, right? Are we actually hitting our target tacos, or are we hitting our target profit margins, right? So this ad cost percentage tacos is at 21%. If I click on this listing, you can see that this listing is making a 44% profit before ads. So that means that for this shop, if our goal was to clear at least a 20% profit, we're still clearing a 20% profit after our ad cost percentage, right? And so for print on demand, I would say that you guys are pretty much trying to clear maybe a 20% profit, a 15% profit in the beginning if you're just trying to gain momentum fast, right? And so you would just want to see, okay, are we either one, hitting our target tacos of say less than 15%, or are we hitting our target profit margins for the actual listing? Because obviously different listings have different margins, right? Like this one has a 44% profit margin before ads. If we come back to say this one has only a 39% profit margin, right? And so we just have to ask ourselves those two questions. Has it spent enough money to make a decision, which we'll explain what that means? And is it hitting our target profit or our target tacos? And so the reason why ROAS, or return on ad spend, or what you see here, is not super valuable, right, is because a lot of times, especially in low margin spaces, ROAS can look really bad. So I think we found an example of one of those here, where like sometimes the ROAS looks like, let's see if we can find one at like 1 something. Yeah, so like here's one. So like if our break-even ROAS was 2, right, this ROAS looks horrible. But historically, we would not want to kill the momentum on a listing if it's hitting target tacos. So like if we found this listing inside of Etsy, it would say that we spent $40 to make $59, right? Because of that green right there. So I spent $39, and the ad revenue from this listing was only $59, right? It wouldn't be taking into account the $300 that we made from organic. And so I would look at this and I'd be like, wow, I spent $40 to lose money. But in reality, when you include that organic revenue, right, it's actually really healthy. It's at 11% taco. So I actually would not want to turn off that listing just based off of ROAS. And so a lot of times, especially in print on demand and low ticket digital downloads, this is happening all the time, where the ROAS looks horrible, or the revenue versus the spend looks horrible, and then we automatically prematurely start turning things off, when in reality you would not want to kill that organic momentum if it still financially makes sense. So going back to my wall art example, it's like it sold well organically, but then actually when we ran the profit numbers, it wasn't hitting target tacos. It was actually losing money. So that's okay. We just turn that listing off and let that money go to listings like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, that are actually hitting our target ad cost percentages, if that makes sense. Are you with me? Everybody?
I know. Everybody's like, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing, guys. Like, I mean, and actually, this is what I learned from you, Hannah, because like I was telling you, I was only strictly looking at ROAS because I come from having done media buying with Facebook and drop shipping and print on demand on Shopify. So, and the other challenge too is like the Etsy advertising tool is very limited as to what we have access to with the data. And so I actually learned that from you, like a 1 ROAS or even less doesn't necessarily mean that you're not profitable. Like you have to look at it holistically, which is why like Profit Tree is such a useful tool when you're scaling, because essentially it enables you to have a holistic understanding of what those numbers are. And again, this applies for anybody who's like way like more advanced, but like then essentially instead of losing the opportunity of you making revenue, you have like an understanding of like, okay, what is actually bringing us additional revenue, like from an ad spend perspective, and continuing to have that flow, so you can actually scale and grow, right? And versus like limiting yourself to your full potential, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so then also like you'll have cases like this where ROAS are bad and the ad costs are bad. So like that one, spent $65, definitely should turn that one off, right? Like for me, I already know 55%. That's like losing 5% on every sale, basically. But it's that ROAS one, because I even too used to teach from ROAS. Well, if you don't have profit tree, I mean, it's still better than looking at nothing. Like if you don't have profit tree, like ROAS is still a viable way to look at it. It's just not telling you the whole picture. But even I mean, that's what Etsy gives you. So you need to go make a decision based off something. So that is better than nothing for sure. One question that I think comes up a lot that I don't think I covered yet was, how much should I invest in a listing before I decide to turn it on or off? I think that's probably one of our commonly asked questions. So there's something that I call a threshold of your comfortable zone, I guess. I don't know. I just made that up. But like, what are you comfortable investing? So like, I like to invest at least the sale price. So I'll invest, $40, $50 in a listing before I say, okay, I should be able to make a decision. It should be hitting either my target tacos or my target profit margins, right? For someone selling like cheaper goods like print on demand shirts and stuff like that, maybe you only want to invest $15 to $20 or $10 to $15. The end amount of money that you need to spend to make a decision is going to be the same. So if you have a low budget, it's just going to spend slower. If you put your budget higher right out the gates, it's going to spend faster, right? There's no wrong answer. It's just how fast or how slow you want to collect the data, basically. And so the idea is that you're at least spending enough money to make a decision. So let's just see if we can find one here that has spent a good amount. So like, here's another example, right? Like 18% and the ROAS are 0. Like that looks really bad. Like I spent $33 to make a 0 ROAS, right? That looks like, oh, we made no money. But then when we look at tacos, you're like, oh, wait a second, actually, that might still actually be hitting our target profit. Yeah, so we're still clearing 20%. Even after that ad cost percentage. But let's see if we can find one that's like actually spent some money and we're like, this is getting uncomfortable now. We should turn off. Well, I mean, this is an example of one, right? Like at $65, right? I should have been able to make a decision, right? And at $65 spend, I've collected enough data. I should be able to go ahead and turn it off. It's not hitting target ROAS or target tacos for sure. We're going to turn that one off. Now, again, for you selling lower ticket, maybe that threshold is $15 to $20. And as you start investing in your listings and you see how fast or how slow your listings take off, you'll be able to gauge how fast or how slow you should be able to make a decision based relative to other listings taking off. So like, if I've done 20 listings with ads and like these 3 are hitting target tacos within $15, then like that will be kind of like your gauge of like, oh, that's my threshold, $15. I want to make a decision after $15 because I have so many listings that I can be testing that if it doesn't hit my target, turn it off, let that money go to other listings, right? If that makes sense. In terms of setting, knowing when to turn things on and off. I actually have a slide for this on more commonly asked questions. Or do you see any questions in the chat, Luna? Maybe?
Not really.
Okay. Another thing, what should I set my daily budget to? That's another commonly asked question. That it's just something is better than nothing, right? So like the idea is like once you put it on and you go up, you don't go back, right? You set it up and you continue to go up and just turn off things that aren't making you money and let that money go to only the ones that make you the money, right? And so something is better than nothing, $5 a day, $10 a day. The idea is once you go up, you just don't go back down, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think. I mean, I can answer these questions, or if we think that maybe no one has questions, we might be good.
Yeah, I think so. Do you guys have any questions for us that are not listed in the top questions, or is there anything you need help with?
Guest name, please. My name. And I think we're good. I'm trying to think of those are pretty much like the biggest questions we get. Sometimes people get caught up in things like CTR and views, which that is when you go into your account, you have views and click rate, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to your ads, the only thing that matters is, are you making more profit? Are you hitting your target profits? Which again, for print on demand, it's about 15-20% after your ad spend. That's your sweet spot of knowing that you're probably going to make more money with your ads on. So if the listings aren't clearing target tacos or those profit margins, then that is kind of like your indicator that listing should probably get turned off, basically. Click rate, views, clicks, that stuff is interesting. ROAS is interesting, but really the only question that matters in whether or not it should live or die is that profitability factor. Click rate is interesting to look at to see what listings are getting the most clicks. That tells you something in that image is working, that product's working, that design you made might be working. And I kind of look at, my listings that have the highest click rates to see if there's like a common theme, maybe the same mock-up I'm using, the same font, something that is like a similarity that helps me build better listings off of that. But other than that, the only thing that really matters in terms of making a decision for your ads is profitability. That's pretty much
Somebody's
it.
asking, what if they're breaking even? What do you recommend?
If you're new and you're hitting a ROAS that's making you break even, that's technically not a loss because it's not costing you to acquire new customers to then give you reviews, to then help convert more organic traffic. So if you're new, I don't think breaking even is a bad thing. We actually break even a lot when we first launch a listing just to gain the momentum, to get reviews. Like, we're okay with breaking even. Now, down the road, a few years from now, maybe that's not the standard because you have so many winners that you want to make sure that every dollar going in is only going to the listings that make you the most money. But in the beginning, if you're breaking even on your ads, like just to get a review, to increase that sales number on your shop for more social proof, it's not costing you to acquire customers. I think it's actually a win. And in business, if it's not costing you money to acquire customers in the beginning, that's like it's not, you're not going negative. So I think it's definitely a win. And it's always like that always is going to serve you in the long run. If you bite the bullet more up front, it's always going to make you more competitive in the long run.
I love it.
Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, good. We did it in under an hour.
I know. So thank you everybody for joining in. And if you have additional questions, just add them in the comment section and I'll make sure to ping Anna if there's something I can't answer. And
Cool.
keep us posted. And obviously, we're going to include as well the link to Profit Tree. You guys get 7 days for free, like a free trial. So make sure to check that out. And also, I have a free training if you're just getting started.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.